Hey Bulls and Bears, it is Thursday, April 7th, 2022. Thank you for being here. If I look a little red, well, it's because I was exercising and it's already in the 90s here in California. In my neck of the woods anyway. Maybe not up in the mountains, but where I'm at here, it's getting hot already. It's only April, so it's gonna be a doozy of a year. And I'm just afraid to see what's going to happen with these fires coming up here, with the drought that we're having. It's going to be a wild year for both, I think, the weather and economically. And we've got a lot of economic news today to get caught up on. Now, let's talk about what's happening with the dollar. And a lot of people have been asking about this. I see you down in comments talking about this. And people going so far as saying that the world's going back to a gold standard. Well, I think eventually, yes. I think eventually after the collapse and after the current fiat currencies are hyperinflated into nothing, then yes, we're going to go back to everywhere a precious metal standard. I don't think it's going to be just gold. I think silver is going to be in there, and that's just my projection. Now, things could unfold a lot differently than many people expect. But what are we seeing? We're seeing now Russia going basically to a gold standard. It doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever, but for now, Russia has pegged the ruble, their currency, the ruble, to gold, and that's at about 5,000 rubles per gram of gold. Now, there's about 28 grams of gold in 1 ounce, so it's a very small, small amount of gold. So 5,000 rubles for 1 gram. Well, there's about 28 grams. I'm not looking at the chart. There's about 28 grams of there's 28 grams in an ounce. So when you look at the price, you have to factor that out here. Now, when they first announced that 5,000 rubles was going to equal 1 gram of gold, it was at about $1,400 when you look at dollars. But that's because the ruble, the Russian currency, took a big drop right after the announcement of the sanctions. But what happened was the ruble has recovered. Again, I'm not sure if that's going to be permanent, but it is very significant. And it's one of the most significant things that have happened globally. So what this does now, it basically puts a floor under gold, in my opinion. Please let me know what you think down in comments. But we see it's going to be very difficult for gold to, even with the manipulation, it's going to be very difficult for gold to dip back down below 1900. In fact, let's take a look at a gold chart and see what's going on here. And let's bring up a gold chart here, and we see recently we've seen gold go as high as 1980 and then drop back down, but not down below 1900, and that's about what the ruble is worth when you look at the 5,000 rubles versus a gram of gold. So this could be putting a floor under gold, and hopefully we'll see silver take off as gold continues to trend higher. Now, on this channel, we've been talking about things like this for a very long time. What is that? That is a decoupling of the dollar, or a de-dollarization. We see countries now are going more towards non-dollar assets, and with the U.S. Now implementing these sanctions, that was Russia's move. Now, is this going to be permanent? I don't think anybody knows. If you know, please let me know down below. But the group of YouTube economists that I'm in contact with, no one is for sure, but we do all agree on the fact that it is very significant what's happening. Now, to talk about more of a long-term forecast, or what I see, what I envision, is the world going ultimately to hard assets, and you could see digital assets tied in with hard assets, because you have to have some sort of limitation on the currency. Even if you transact digitally, you still have to have some sort of backing in order for there not to be this inflation. What this has done for me is I went out and bought more silver here recently, because the writing's on the wall, and the way that the U.S. has abused being the benefactor of the world's reserve currency and having the ability to create endless amounts of digital numbers out of thin air, what they call currency, which is not real money, but it's accepted and it's trusted as money, but it's becoming less and less trusted. When you see what's happening to people, they're getting, in some cases, their accounts frozen for having certain views. People are getting stuff swiped from them, so more people are going to hard assets. The way the dollar is being used as a weapon, it's basically weaponized against other countries. and sanctions. The days are numbered for the dollar, and now we see what's happening in other parts of the world and how they're reacting to this. Now, this could be the beginning of the takeoff for gold. Hopefully, silver will follow, but the way that these prices have been suppressed have been on the paper markets. But when you now have a real world, more of a physical demand, that's going to be more and more difficult for the paper suppression to stay in effect. Please let me know down in the comments, but I think this could be a floor under gold, and we're going to start seeing some nice increases now, like we should have seen all along. We should have seen, in my opinion, gold 10,000, silver 2,000, but that's my opinion. But other people out there in the gold, silver stacking world, they also agree with those numbers, in some cases even much higher than what I just laid out there. One thing that's important to remember is that the dollar, the US dollar, was pegged to gold up until 1971, and then it became detached. And what did we see happen after that time, after the early 70s? We saw inflation really take off. Let's just take a look at a chart on home prices, and that will outline for you what happens when you attach the dollar from some sort of physical, in this case, precious metal, gold. And we're looking at a chart here, median home price of U.S. homes, and we see homes were pretty steady, even dipping down there before the gold standard was decoupled, before the dollar was detached from gold. And then we saw through the 70s, through the 80s, a massive increase in the rate of home price rising, home price acceleration. And it's not a coincidence. You detach the dollar from gold. Now you can create the dollars in unlimited amounts, and therefore banks can loan out more money, and lots of other things happen in addition to this. But you see what happens when this occurs. And now you saw what happened here recently with all the new dollars printed, and add on top of that all the other factors that impacted the housing market, the shortages, the rising energy costs, the labor shortage, material shortages, rising prices, rising lumber costs, supply chain disruptions, etc. And you saw an unprecedented, if I could say that word today, an unprecedented rise in home prices, even wilder and more rapid than we saw in the mid-2000s before the housing bubble went bust. All right, now if we ever see a worldwide standard where the currency is pegged to a precious metal, that means there will be limitations on lending. There will be limitations on how much money can be created and all these bailouts and rescue programs. And if that happens, you will see deflation in these markets that rely on debt and leverage, the housing market, the stock market. Right? When there's something tangible, something real world that limits the amount of dollars that can be created, then you will truly see prices come back in line with fundamentals. But until that happens globally, expect prices to continue to rise. And that's the way I look at it. Please let me know what you think down in comments. And we'll be back with another dose of economic reality for you very, very soon. See you then. Bye now.